how do we proceed with this? So, what could they have done? What has happened? People don't know. People don't know. They just want to find out why are they not accepting those old currencies as the court has directed. Because who knows how long this is going to go on for, this non-acceptance of the old ones. Because don't forget, the process up until December 31. So people need to make out all of that and take advantage of the rulings early enough to make all the plans. So if there's a lot of delay now, who knows what else you might expect? Or are we supposed to wait until after May 29 before we start accepting some of these things? Are people already packing their bags and calling the removal vans on their way and saying, your problem, go deal with it? We don't want to believe that that is the case. But something needs to be done as soon as yesterday, as a matter of fact, because as this lead headline reads, let me know.
This is a very horrid situation, Kimberly.
It is, because I have received a lot of bills actually.
When people are
Last week.
buying their
Some say
own currency.
You buy what, 10,000 naira for 10,000? No, 10,000 naira
For
for
3,000
And I
naira.
thought,
Yes.
this is ridiculous.
It
In the
costs
same country?
30%, yes.
In the same country?
Yes, I was speaking to somebody who might fall under the vulnerable class yesterday, and she told me that, in her church, there was a POS woman who was selling this currency, providing this currency. 1,000 naira was all she was given to one person. You couldn't buy more than 1,000 naira, and it cost 300 naira to buy 1,000
I
naira.
thought they were arresting people who were doing this previously.
Arresting. Look, this is where we are, and I don't know whether I don't know whether we currently have leaders. If we do, can somebody tell us what is happening in our country where we're buying our own legal tender? I don't think that this was the plan. This was not the policy that as it was intended. If this is not the policy as it was intended and it has finally gotten out of hand, can somebody just let us know what is happening and what solutions they have at hand? Because this is totally unacceptable. Look at this. The Abuja Inquirer perhaps is putting things in perspective for us. The lead headline says, Q Nation. That is it. That's what you have on the front page. Long lines everywhere, from banks, fuel stations to hospitals. You have to ask, really, how much more can a people take? How much more can a people take? Long lines everywhere, from banks, fuel stations to hospitals. In fairness to the fuel people, I don't know what is happening elsewhere in the country, but in Abuja, we saw an attempt to try and make sure that all the filling stations were wet. So there's still queues, but they're not as long as we saw last week. There's still queues in most of the stations. I mean, on my way to work this morning, I still saw a few, but they were shorter than what I saw most of last week coming to work. But we're still queuing. It's still a queue nonetheless. When we asked NNPC, they said, it's because we didn't take into cognizance the elections that was coming. There was a break in supply. Please, I hope they have planned
For this weekend,
for this weekend, because it's not something that is falling upon us. We know before it comes that there's going to be an election. I hope that there is a plan in place. But this is what the Abuja Inquirer is covering for us this morning. Their lead story. As APC meets lawmakers-elect calls for Adamu's resignation grow. It's on page 3 of the paper. You have a number of other stories just beneath the nameplate there, and you also see there Naira redesign as Buhari keeps Nigerians waiting. ACF warns of anarchy. So whether or not you like it, the president has to speak. He has to at least accept that he has accepted the judgment of the Supreme Court and will implement accordingly. Page 3 is where we'll find details there. They have a number of other stories for you, but I'll leave you to do that yourself. That will be it for the Abuja Inquirer.
We'll take a look at the Daily Times next. The Daily Times has this one as its lead story. Naira external reserves stumble over high demand for forex. So, I mean, that's a big story, really. You can't take that away. As commercial banks slash BTA by 50% to $2,000. So this is a Naira from an outside view now. We know the Naira from an inside view. We know what we go through, really. What do we call it now? The internal exchange rate now? It's not forex now. It's I don't know. Lookalikes, if there's anything like that.
Is there a precedent in the world for this? Anywhere in the world?
Well, Nigeria is a peculiar country. I mean, in different ways. India has gone through its own fair share of policy redesign, but not like Nigeria. There's lots of peculiarities with Nigeria. So, I mean, but that's where we are. That's a big story. It's important to catch up on all of them as much as you can. So, I mean, you approach things from an informed point of view and hold government accountable. So that's a big one. But then beside the big picture, you see 10 days after Supreme Court verdict, Nigerians still rejecting old notes, businesses crumbling. Yeah, that's the reality for a lot of Nigerians. And just one more for you, just at the top of the front page, presidential poll, LP, that's Labour Party, INEC said for showdown over access to election materials. So it's been a lot of back and forth on this election materials, and just wonder again, there's so much happening, there's so much to grapple with, so much to wrap your head around, but I'll be there for the Daily Times.
The Guardian newspaper is also interested in the cash crunch story, and how does it lead? Check it out. Economy sheds 20 trillion naira as policy weakens productivity and SMEs. I mean, hey, we've been talking about a more productive Nigeria for how long now? And with all of the policies that government has itself put out to ease doing business, ease work, give loans, anchor borrowers program, and all those things, it will seem like all of that now is literally choked, right? Literally held by the jugular. So it all freezes. But that's what you have on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Look at the riders. NECA says small businesses going into extinction. Hitherto, an average SME has a lifespan of five years.
I wonder what it is now.
I wonder what it is now. NLC says government undermining productivity. CPPE calls on Buhari to intervene. Food factories shut down, lose billions. We use our wages to buy money for transport fare, say factory workers. That's the lead story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. And there are several other stories you can choose and pick from, but I'll leave it to you to do your pick.
Rights to brief INEC chairman on BVAS reconfiguration today. Upload of presidential results suffers glitches on IREV. APC groups warn against planned protests by LP supporters, say it's invitation to crisis. Okay, make of that what you will. Of course, you know, the big question mark about BVAS. Yes, the commission, time and again, has spoken up about. Lots of people have already said that there's going to be no excuses this weekend. Absolutely no excuses this weekend concerning what was supposed to have been done. Just above this list story, Senate President Tinubu APC leaders placate Christians Southeast. That feature here. Naira notes obey Supreme Court order. ACF tells PMB. So you're also going to see that there. Let's see. Police others killed in Kaduna, Katsina attacks. Also unfortunate scenario. So just so many questions about some of what's playing out there. You just keep wondering. Kind of issues that comes up time and again. You just wonder. It befuddles one really. But that is leadership this morning.
Well, Vanguard looks at something else this morning. They're focusing more on politics. Tinubu bids to form government of national unity. Southeast, South being considered for Senate presidency to provide direction for zoning of speakership. Others meeting sensitive to religious balancing. So you see they're meeting sensitive to religious balancing. Bajabia Miller tipped as chief of staff. Governor El Rufai SGF. So these are all the permutations you're seeing right there. Tinubu's support groups Ruth for Betara as speaker. You find details on page 5 of the paper. Well, the business community are also setting their own agenda. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, market operators, others, list agenda for incoming government. Removal of fuel subsidy, multiple exchange rates, privatization rank high. We seek balance of attention between money, capital markets, as according to stockbrokers. Multiple taxation, others must be addressed to boost investors' confidence. That's according to MAN. As Fidelity Bank chairman calls for return of margin lending. So you find all of the details on page 20 of the paper. Look at this gas flare commercialization program threatened. That's according to an investigation. A number of stories on the side there. On top of the nameplate, they have a number more, but I'm going to look at this one for you. Gunmen killed 36 in Kaduna, Katsina. I mean, people are still losing their lives. Security is still on the front burner. These are human beings. While we're talking about cash crunch, no fuel, etc., etc., 36 people will not be able to get cash even if they wanted to. Now, it will not be left for their families. What exactly has happened? I want to flip to page 10 of the paper. And perhaps in the, I don't know that Nigeria has Women History Month, but if we did, it's significant that we should keep stories like this. Franca Afegwa, Nigeria's first female senator, dies at 79. Her soul rest in peace. Page 4 is where you'll find details. Let's leave it there for Vanguard newspapers.
Indeed, but this Nigeria has this story as the big one. It's looking forward, really. APC, zoning of NAS officers called for Adamu's resignation top agenda. So as much as, there's a lot of talk about cash crunch and all of that, politicians still doing what they do best. NWC elected lawmakers meet Tinubu today. Rights activists demand national chairman's ouster. Okay. Rights activists?
Is this another here we go again?
Well, another 4 years is upon us, and as I said, the politicians are doing what they know how to do best. Citizens should do what they know, what they should do best, which is hold them accountable. So I think that's also important. Page 2, and that story from Kaduna also makes its way to the front page. Another angle to it: 10 corpses uncovered after Kaduna deadly attacks, curfew imposed on communities, and of course, cash crunch. Oh dear, it's now a tongue twister. Cash crunch is also on the front page. Hits Nigerians harder. Worshippers resort to churches, mosques for succor as tithes, offerings drop.
Meanwhile, most organizations, historically, churches and mosques were missionary outlets that offer some kind of support to the community anyway, health services, education services, and all of that. Now they also, that's aside from the benevolence, what they had done hitherto. So if, I don't even know where to go.
So I wanted to say the same. The pressure is getting, what they say. Everywhere. Let me just move on. On top of the nameplate, and this is important because now that we're not doing a lot of cash, we have to do lots of transactions digitally with your debit card and all of that. Don't expose your debit card numbers and CVV. NDIC warns bank customers. So let me just break it down. The CVV is you have 3 digits at the back of your card, so that's your CVV. NDIC, of course, is the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Commission. That's not on your card, but the CVV is very important, and the numbers. So please make sure you protect them at all costs, because I think that so far people are finding ways to cheat people, to dupe people using their debit card. So please be careful, right? That's our only one penny.
Yeah,
cover this one.
And for you to also help those who don't know about these things, because it's so easy for some people who don't know, to just give their cards to someone and go do it for me, whatever I want you to do, and all of that. Especially if it's your primary card, not what I would call the slave cards.
Okay.
Not you have your own primary card, and then you have the utility cards. That's what I'm calling it.
Oh wow, that's how it works.
Oh yes.
Okay.
So you have a primary account,
All right.
where you can put some money into a utility card.
Oh, I nice seat.
A nice seat,
So
yeah.
so your money's safe.
So your primary money is safe.
Pardon me, I should mention this, by the way. Polls coverage. We draw 48-hour shutdown threat on broadcast stations. Saraf tells Buhari, page 13, in case you're wondering, where's that coming from? Page 13 to give you more details. That's this Nigeria.
And flip to Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Now, Malcolm mentioned this earlier about fuel scarcity. Well, it's right there on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. 48 days after Buhari's committee fails to end petrol scarcity. That story is on page 4. Can someone please send the president a text in case, maybe he's watching the TV and he knows, okay, I'm going to do this, and then if he gets into office, he doesn't remember or something. Someone send him a text and say, Mr. President, don't forget to promise to do this. So that Nigerians can have the succor the president promised. Right? Now, what's funny? Look at the riders. Subsidy gulped 2.4 trillion naira in 6 months. Excuse me. Motorists buy at 300 naira per litre in Kaduna others. Presidency month. That's the lead of the Daily Trust newspaper.
So the president's aide has time and again said the president is fully aware of what's going on in the country. That, why do people think he's not? I've heard that not. So,
even from the president,
sending a text message.
Sometimes people forget doing what he wants to do. So in case this one slips him, just saying. Right under the nameplate, among other stories, ACF to Buhari, Naira redesign policy can damage your credentials. A good number of people would agree with that because the president says he wants to leave a legacy. What kind of legacy would you want to remember this one now? It's right there on the front page of the paper. And right under those pictures of queues, as Malcolm says, it's pictures worth 1,000 words. Those pictures are a few queues in Abuja, in Nasarawa, and in Lokoja. The one in Lokoja shows a queue of kegs, petrol kegs. PNID, Nigeria's $11 billion trial ends with alleged massive bribes and missing witnesses. Missing witnesses, what does that mean? Find the details on page 11. No, that's page 35 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Gentlemen?
Take a look at News Direct then. A legal tender crisis. ATMs dispense old notes as banks reject old notes deposit.
So banks,
yeah.
Banks cannot be said to be people who are not educated. So, there's certainly a lacuna somewhere. The Supreme Court has spoken, yet banks are, flagrantly.
But the same banks
are the ones loading the ATMs.
Exactly.
So, how can you pick and choose?
You load the ATMs with the old notes, but you will not accept the ATMs.
There is a disdain going on somewhere for the Nigerian people. Yeah, there is a disdain and I don't know how to put it now. Because I know that those bankers too are Nigerians, and maybe that's not really their wish, but they're certainly acting on directives.
So,
the average banker doesn't decide what he or she does. He or she is just an employee. Maybe that is coming from the very top. And the very top, of course, might be getting orders from elsewhere. These people are directly regulated by the CBN. So, there's a whole chain of implication as to what this means.
Yeah.
The banks are, putting out this monies in ATMs, but are refusing to collect it. There is, grave implication for what it is that the banks are doing. I hope they realize the implications. I hope they do.
Well, so after that, look at the riders. Directs customers to follow CBN guidelines for deposits. Stakeholders lament failure of electronic platform. Nigerian economy loses 20 trillion naira over cash crisis. Uda Yusuf. NSCDC raises concerns over circulation of fake redesigned naira notes. Because we know that the banks themselves, when the heat of this crisis previously, weeks ago, they all kept on saying, we follow directives, we follow directives. So it means, it comes across then as though this is a directive from their regulatory authority, that, or from their bosses, as it were, to load the ATMs with the old notes, don't accept ATM deposits, because that is what is going on. Or else, it means they then need to tell us what really is going on. Are they acting on orders? Are they acting on their own? So CBN, I think CBN needs to now clear the air on this matters. So if they are flouting the law, their regulatory body has got to speak up. If their regulatory body is mum, it means silence can be interpreted as consent. So many things here that needs to be clarified, but we'll keep tabs on that as we proceed. So there you go. That is our new News Direct this morning, and that ends a look at some of the dailies here this morning. Well, yes, you can always go ahead and tell us what's going on in your locality, your community. We'd like to hear from you. So that ends it with the papers. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.